Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Buddham dhammam sangham namasami. Okay, hello everybody. I feel honored to be invited here to Buddhist Fellowship Gem, Buddhist Gem and Fellowship at BGF. Thank you, Brother Bobby and everybody here for your support. So today's topic is harmony. Now this theme is in the suttas a little bit. Samagi is the Pali word, but it's a fairly minor theme. The Buddha would say to his monks and nuns, get along harmoniously, this kind of thing. But it's more so about just follow the Vinaya rules. It's more so a bunch of don'ts, a bunch of bad behaviors to refrain from. When it comes to listing positive things to do, he would just say general things like, look upon each other with kindly eyes, doing acts of loving kindness, both in public and in private. So he wouldn't get all that deep into what those acts were, but he's just saying, well, you figure that out. Now, most of the teachings in the suttas are addressed to the monks and nuns. A small number are for the lay people. Far fewer of the teachings are actually directed at lay people. But I picked one today, which is certainly, meant for lay people. Okay, so this is DN31, 31. Advice to Sigalaka. So I have heard, at one time, the Buddha was staying near Rajagaha in the bamboo grove, the squirrel's feeding ground. Now at that time, the householder's son, Sigalaka, rose early and left Rajagaha. With his clothes and hair all wet, he raised his joined palms to revere the various quarters, east, south, west, north, below, and above. Then the Buddha robed up in the morning and, taking his bowl and robe, entered Rajagaha for alms. He saw Sigalaka revering the various quarters and said to him, "Householder's son, why are you revering or worshipping the various quarters in this way?" "Sir, on his deathbed, my father said to me, 'My dear, please revere the quarters.' Honoring, respecting, and venerating my father's words, I rose early and left Rajagaha, and with my clothes and hair all wet, raised my joined palms to revere the various quarters, east, south, west, north, below, and above. The 6 directions. Householder's son, that's not how the 6 directions should be revered in the training of the Noble One. But sir, how should the 6 directions be revered in the training of the Noble One? Sir, please teach me this. Well then, householder's son, listen and apply your mind well, and I will speak. Yes, sir, replied Sigalaka. The Buddha said this, householder's son, a noble disciple gives up the 4 corrupt deeds, doesn't do bad deeds on 4 grounds, and avoids 6 drains on wealth. When they've left these 14 bad things behind, they have the 6 directions covered. They're practicing to win in both worlds, and they succeed in this world and the next. When their body breaks up after death, they're reborn in a good place, a heavenly realm. 4 corrupt deeds. What 4 corrupt deeds have they given up? Killing living creatures, stealing, sexual misconduct, and lying. These are corrupt deeds. These are the 4 corrupt deeds they've given up. That is what the Buddha said. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, killing, stealing, telling lies, and committing adultery. Astute people don't praise these things. 3, 4 grounds. On what 4 grounds do they not do bad deeds? 1 does bad deeds prejudiced by favoritism, hostility, stupidity, and cowardice. When a noble disciple is not prejudiced by favoritism, hostility, stupidity, and cowardice, they don't do bad deeds on these 4 grounds. This is what the Buddha said. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, if you act against the teaching out of favoritism, hostility, cowardice, or stupidity, your fame shrinks like the moon in the waning fortnight. If you don't act against the teaching out of favoritism, hostility, cowardice, and stupidity, your fame swells, like your fame increases, like the moon in the waxing fortnight. 4, 6 drains on wealth. What 6 drains on wealth do they avoid? Habitually engaging in the following things is a drain on wealth: consuming beer, wine, and liquor intoxicants, roaming the streets at night, frequenting festivals, gambling, bad friends, laziness. 6 drawbacks of drinking. There are these 6 drawbacks of habitually consuming beer, wine, and liquor that cause intoxication: immediate loss of wealth, promotion of quarrels, susceptibility to illness, disrepute, indecent exposure, and weakened wisdom is the 6th thing. These are the 6 drawbacks of habitually consuming beer, wine, and liquor intoxicants. 6 drawbacks of roaming the streets at night. There are these 6 drawbacks of roaming the streets at night. Yourself, your partners and children, and your property are all left unguarded. You're suspected of bad deeds. Untrue rumors spread about you. You're at the forefront of many things that entail suffering. These are the 6 drawbacks of roaming the streets at night. 6 drawbacks of festivals. There are these 6 drawbacks of frequenting festivals. You're always thinking, where's the dancing? Where's the singing? Where's the music? Where are the stories? Where's the applause? Where are the kettle drums? I guess they played kettle drums at the parties back at the time of the Buddha. These are the 6 drawbacks of frequenting festivals. 6 drawbacks of gambling. There are these 6 drawbacks of habitually gambling. Victory breeds enmity. Victory breeds enmity. So enmity means like, I guess it makes other people jealous, and they want revenge, this kind of thing. It brings hostility. Okay. Okay, victory breeds enmity. The loser mourns their money. There is immediate loss of wealth. A gambler's word carries no weight in public assembly. Friends and colleagues treat them with contempt, and no one wants to marry a gambler, for they think this individual is a gambler. They're not able to support a partner. These are the 6 drawbacks of habitually gambling. 6 drawbacks of bad friends. There are these 6 drawbacks of bad friends. You become friends and companions with those who are addicts, carousers, drunkards, frauds, swindlers, and thugs. These are the 6 drawbacks of bad friends. 6 drawbacks of laziness. There are these 6 drawbacks of habitual laziness. You don't get your work done because you think, it's too cold, it's too hot, it's too late, it's too early, I'm too hungry, I'm too full. By dwelling on so many excuses for not working, you don't make any more money, and the money you already have runs out. These are the 6 drawbacks of habitual laziness. This is what the Buddha said. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, some are just drinking buddies. Some call you their dear friend. But a true friend is one who stands by you in need. Sleeping late, adultery, making enemies, harmfulness, bad friends, and avarice. These 6 grounds ruin a person. With bad friends, bad comrades, bad behavior, and alms resort. I guess this is referring to monks who have an alms resort. They go get their alms food. A man falls to ruin in both this world and the next. Dice, women, toddy, so that's like a type of drink. It's like a fermented alcohol drink. Okay, dice, playing, like gambling with dice. Dice, women, toddy, song and dance. Sleeping by day and roaming at night. Bad friends and avarice. Avarice is like hostility, anger. These 6 grounds ruin a person. They play dice and drink beer and consort with women loved by others, associating with the worse, not the better. They diminish like the waning moon. One who is broke and destitute, due to toddy, thirsty, drinking in the bar, drowning in debt, will quickly lose their way. When you're in the habit of sleeping late, seeing night as a time to rise, and always getting drunk, you can't keep up the household life. Too cold, too hot, too late, they say. When the young neglect their work like this, riches pass them by. But one who considers heat and cold as no more than blades of grass. Okay, so it's easy as walking through tall grass. He does his duties as a man, and happiness never fails. Fake friends. This is a really long sutta. Fake friends. Householder's son, you should recognize these 4 enemies disguised as friends. The talker, the taker, the flatterer, the spender. You can recognize a fake friend who's all take on 4 grounds. Your possessions end up theirs. Giving little, they expect a lot. They do their duty out of fear. They associate for their own advantage. You can recognize a fake friend who's all take on these 4 grounds. That's really good, this summary. I want to read that one again. Okay, your possessions end up theirs. Giving little, they expect a lot. They do their duty out of fear. They associate for their own advantage. You can recognize a fake friend who's all take on these 4 grounds. You can recognize a fake friend who's all talk on 4 grounds. They're hospitable in the past. They're hospitable in the future. They're full of meaningless pleasantries. Okay, they're full of meaningless pleasantries. When something needs doing in the present, they point to their own misfortune. You can recognize a fake friend who's all talk on these 4 grounds. You can recognize a fake friend who's a flatterer on 4 grounds. They support you equally in doing bad and doing good. They praise you to your face and put you down behind your back. You can recognize a fake friend who's a flatterer on these 4 grounds. You can recognize a fake friend who's a spender on 4 grounds. They accompany you when drinking, roaming the streets at night, frequenting festivals, and gambling. You can recognize a fake friend who's a spender on these 4 grounds. This is what the Buddha said. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, one friend is all take, another all talk. One's just a flatterer, and one's a comrade who spends. An astute person understands these 4 enemies for what they are and keeps them at a distance as they'd shun a risky road. Okay, so just staying away from them. Okay, good-hearted friends. Householder's son, you should recognize these 4 good-hearted friends. The helper, the friend in good times and bad, the counselor, and the one who's sympathetic. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's a helper on 4 grounds. They guard you when you're negligent. They guard your property when you're negligent. They keep you safe in times of danger. When something needs doing, they provide you with twice the money you need. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's a helper on these 4 grounds. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's the same in good times and bad on 4 grounds. They tell you secrets. They keep your secrets. They don't abandon you in times of trouble. They'd even give their life for your welfare. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's the same in good times and bad on these 4 grounds. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's a counselor on 4 grounds. They keep you from doing bad. They support you in doing good. They teach you what you do not know. They explain the path to heaven. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's a counselor on these 4 grounds. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's sympathetic on 4 grounds. They don't delight in your misfortune. They delight in your good fortune. They keep others from criticizing you. They encourage praise of you. You can recognize a good-hearted friend who's sympathetic on these 4 grounds. The Buddha spoke this matter. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, a friend who's a helper, one the same in both pleasure and pain, a friend of good counsel, and one of sympathy. An astute person understands these 4 friends for what they are and carefully looks after them, like a mother the child at her breast. The astute and virtuous shine like a burning flame. They pick up riches as bees roaming around pick up pollen, and their riches proceed to grow like a termite mound piling up. In gathering wealth like this, a householder does enough for their family, and they'd hold on to friends by dividing their wealth in 4. 1 portion is to enjoy, 2 parts invest in work, and the 4th should be kept for times of trouble. Okay, so this is an extremely rare occasion where the Buddha is offering like financial advice, okay? It's about the only time you're going to see financial advice. If any of you are like investors or bankers or anything like that. Okay, so again, 1 portion is to enjoy, 2 parts invest in work, and the 4th should be kept for times of trouble. Covering the 6 directions. And how, householder son, does a noble disciple cover the 6 directions? These 6 directions should be recognized. Parents as the east, tutors as the south, partner and children as the west, friends and colleagues as the north, bond servants and workers as beneath, and ascetics and Brahmins as above. A child should serve their parents as the eastern quarter in 5 ways, thinking, I will support those who supported me. I'll do my duty for them. I'll maintain the family lineage. I'll take care of the inheritance. When they have passed away, I'll make an offering on their behalf. Parents served by the children in these 5 ways show sympathy to them in 5 ways. They keep them from doing bad. They support them in doing good. They train them in a profession. They connect them with a suitable partner. Okay, so this would be like arranged marriages. Okay, connect them with a suitable partner. So this was the norm in India. They transfer the inheritance in due time. Parents served by their children in these 5 ways show sympathy to them in these 5 ways. And that's how the eastern quarter is covered, kept safe and free of peril. A pupil should serve their tutor as the southern quarter in 5 ways. By rising for them, by serving them, by listening well, by looking after them, and by carefully learning their profession. Tutors served by their pupils in these 5 ways show sympathy to them in 5 ways. They make sure they're well educated and well drilled in memorization. They clearly explain all the knowledge of the profession. They introduce them to their friends and colleagues. They provide protection in every region. Tutors served by their pupils in these 5 ways show sympathy to them in these 5 ways. And that's how the southern quarter is covered, kept safe and free of peril. A husband should serve his wife as the western quarter in 5 ways, by treating her with honor, by not looking down on her, by not being unfaithful, by relinquishing authority to her, and by presenting her with adornments. A wife served by her husband in these 5 ways shows sympathy to him in 5 ways. She's well organized in her work. She manages the domestic help. She's not unfaithful. She preserves his earnings. She's deft and tireless in all her duties. A wife served by her husband in these 5 ways shows sympathy to him in these 5 ways. And that's how the western quarter is covered, kept safe and free of peril. A gentleman should serve his friends and colleagues as the northern quarter in 5 ways: giving, kindly words, taking care, equality, and not using tricky words. Not using tricky words. Okay, I'd have to look at the Pali there later. What are tricky words? Maybe it means like deception. Don't use deception, manipulation. I'm guessing that's what it means. Friends and colleagues served by a gentleman in these 5 ways show sympathy to him in 5 ways. They guard him when they're negligent. They guard his property when they're negligent. They keep him safe in times of danger. They don't abandon him in times of trouble. They honor his descendants. Friends and colleagues served by a gentleman in these 5 ways show sympathy to him in these 5 ways. That's how the northern quarter is covered, kept safe and free of peril. A master should serve their bond servants and workers as the lower quarter in 5 ways: by organizing work according to ability, by paying food and wages, by nursing them when sick, by sharing special treats, and by giving time off work. Bondservants and workers served by a master in these 5 ways show sympathy to him in 5 ways. They get up first and go to bed last. They don't steal. They do their work well, and they promote a good reputation. Bondservants and workers served by a master in these 5 ways show sympathy to him in these 5 ways. And that's how the lower quarter is covered, kept safe, and free of peril. A gentleman should serve ascetics and Brahmins as the proper quarter in 5 ways: by loving deeds of body, speech, and mind, by not turning them away at the gate, and by providing them with material needs. Ascetics and Brahmins served by a gentleman in these 5 ways show sympathy to him in 6 ways. They keep him from doing bad. They support him in doing good. They think of him with kindly thoughts. They teach him what he does not know. They clarify what he's already learned. They explain the path to heaven. Ascetics and Brahmins served by a gentleman in these 5 ways show sympathy to him in these 6 ways. And that's how the upper quarter is covered, kept safe and free of peril. The Buddha spoke this matter. Then the Holy One, the teacher, went on to say, "Parents are the east, tutors the south, wives and children the west, friends and colleagues the north, servants and workers below, and ascetics and Brahmins above. By honoring these quarters, a householder does enough for their family. The astute and the virtuous, the gentle and the articulate, the humble and the kind, they're the kind who win glory. The diligent, not lazy, those not disturbed by troubles, those consistent in conduct, the intelligent, they're the kind who win glory. The inclusive, the makers of friends, the bountiful, those rid of stinginess, those who lead, train, and persuade, they're the kind who win glory. Giving and kindly words, taking care here, and treating equally in worldly conditions, as they deserve in each case. These ways of being inclusive in the world are like a moving chariot's linchpin. If there were no such ways of being inclusive, neither mother nor father would be respected and honored for what they've done for their children. But since these ways of being inclusive do exist, the astute do regard them well, so they can achieve greatness and are praised." When this was said, Sigalaka, the householder's son, said to the Buddha, "Excellent, sir, excellent. It's as if he were writing the overturned, or revealing the hidden, or pointing out the path to the lost, or lighting a lamp in the dark so people with clear eyes can see what's there. The Buddha has made the teaching clear in many ways. I go for refuge to the Buddha, to the teaching, and to the mendicant Sangha. From this day forth, may the Buddha remember me as a lay follower who has gone for refuge for life. Okay. There's a lot here in this sutta. First thing I would say about this is I think the Buddha had a really good sense of what the beliefs of the people in India had. He had a sense of their kind of spiritual beliefs, religious beliefs, and he knew how to connect with those beliefs. So this householder Sigalaka was observing kind of a family custom, a family tradition, and then the Buddha presented his own version of that same tradition. And this is a theme you see many times in the suttas, where he shows that he understands his audience, and then having connected with the audience, then presents his own teachings. The reason I picked this sutta was now that the internet is so common and everybody uses it like every day. Whenever we go on social media, we hear the world news all the time, and there's always some problem somewhere in the world. There's not just one war happening in the world, there's multiple wars happening. And one hears about the corruption in not just one's own government, but the corruption in other countries' governments. And there's no end to all the politics. There's a term now you may have heard called doom scrolling. Doom scrolling. It's sort of like if you're on social media and you just keep scrolling down the stories with your thumb on your phone. And it's like bad news after bad news after bad news after bad news. All this corruption and war and, And once you see enough of it, it can kind of start making you feel depressed. So that's why it's called doom scrolling. You kind of get this sense, we're all doomed, everything's bad and we're never going to fix it. Now, I would suggest, there are bad things in this world, but there have always been bad things in the world. There's always been wars. There's always been corruption. It's just that we hear a lot more about it lately. We have this way to hear so much more now. There's so much information now. And I guess it's wonderful to have such easy access to helpful information, but if we're not careful, too much of this negative information can really pull down our happiness, pull down even our psychological health. And what I really like about this sutta is when the Buddha speaks of the 6 directions here, there's like your family, your spouse, your children, your co-workers, the holy men and women, etc. All these different kind of groups of people in your life. And the Buddha speaks in a way like we have responsibility. We have responsibility to having good conduct to all of them, even the people below us. Like at the time of the Buddha, they had slavery. There was, the untouchables had it really bad back then. Even today, they also have it bad too in India. And here's, the Buddha is saying actually to be nice to them. So I think the Buddha, he couldn't quite maybe get rid of slavery, but at least he's trying to promote better treatment of those slaves. Okay, he couldn't get rid of the caste system. I think he figured he would, probably get in too much trouble if he tried that. By the way, in the Sangha, whatever caste the monks and nuns used to be before they ordained, then they no longer were of that caste. They were just simply a monk or a nun once they ordained. So in his Sangha, he has gotten rid of the caste system just within his Sangha. So, that was his attempt at getting rid of the caste system. It's in his own group. He did push back against the Brahmins in a whole bunch of other suttas, and he actually got them quite angry a few times. There was this one time he almost got killed for it. So I think he did push back as best he could, but then he kind of stopped once it got too close, too dangerous. If you want to read more suttas about that, the first 13 suttas of the Digha Nikaya, I'm reading from the Digha Nikaya here. The first 13 suttas have a lot of examples of this, where the Buddha criticizes the Brahmins in a bunch of different ways, compares their practices and his own practices. But anyway, what I especially like here is the Buddha is praising, I guess, like responsible behavior to everybody in our life, okay? And it's my strong belief that is our best opportunity at making a change in this world, okay? If we want to change the world for the better, we want to make the world a better place, I would say it's with the people you actually meet, okay? It's the people you actually know. It's the people in your life you actually meet face to face, spend time with. Those are the best opportunities to make some kind of a difference. When we might, let's say, inspire them with our own behavior or our own example, maybe have conversations where people may get their minds changed a little bit, about certain things for the better. If we just go on the internet trying to argue with people, trying to get them to see our view of things, we'll make nowhere as much of an impact, I say. Or we have far worse odds. Okay? I suppose there's some very famous YouTubers out there, they got like millions of subscribers and stuff, but those are a very, very small number who manage to get that kind of popularity. And it's almost through luck that they even managed to get so much popularity. Like, that popularity could have just as easily built up around some other person. There's a bit of randomness how all this popularity kind of builds up around these people. It's just a tiny, tiny, tiny percentage who get very famous that way. But as to the rest of us, who are more, you could say, just normal, average, everyday people, I say this is our best opportunity to make an impact in the world. It's, with our family members, our community members, you know what I mean? Like, kind of start with those people around you. Start with your own little bubble in this world, like your own house, maybe the school where your kids go to school, this kind of thing. Or here at BGF, there's community activities. That's another opportunity where you actually meet people, talk to people in real life. And I feel that's a message that needs more emphasis these days, when, especially after the pandemic, when everybody was staying indoors a lot, not going to any outings like this, groups like this, people people kind of stop being around each other, talking to each other. People are much more isolated, and that's, it's kind of not healthy. And so I want to encourage more of that, Yeah. Okay. And the one last point I'll make here is in modern times now, there's kind of a perspective of like everybody has rights, everybody has kind of privileges, everybody has entitlements. We get certain rights by being like you're Malaysians, and you get certain rights and privileges just by being Malaysian. Or I'm Canadian, and I get certain rights and privileges in Canada just because I'm a Canadian. So this is kind of a more recent idea to have human rights at all, okay? To have some kind of rule of law, courts of law, etc. Back at the time of the Buddha, this was not invented yet, okay? There was no rule of law. There was, it was kings, it was armies. Whoever the strongest king was, whatever he wanted was, that's what became the ruling thing, was the strongest king. Here it is more framed in a way of like duties, rather than receiving entitlements, rather it's the other way around. We have duties, okay? Duties to our spouse, duties to our children, duties to our parents or whatever it is. And then they also have duties back to us as well. So it's having these duties is sort of the glue that keeps the society together. Everybody lives up to their responsibilities. And it's very much a cultural thing. Yeah, so this was the way that society was glued together back then, was through these duties. It wasn't through some government who had, let's say, a constitution or, courts of law or whatever. Yeah. Okay, so maybe I'll just conclude here and ask if there's any questions. No questions? Okay.
With regards to doom scrolling, right? On one hand, it could be depressing to read all the news, but on the other hand, there's also a need to read the news to know what's going on, right? For various reasons. So, do you have any advice on how to cope with the noisy news environment and all these depressing news? Is there a way to read them in such a way that it does not cause depression?
Okay, so the question is about doom scrolling. Like, how do we get the news, but not all this negativity? Well, I would offer just as something to think over. Maybe this isn't suitable for you specifically, but what I have found is there is this one social media network where it's not run by some big corporation, and the corporation controls the algorithms as to what you're going to see. Like they have algorithms to kind of show you political things or advertisements or whatever. So this platform has none of that, no ads, no algorithms like that. It's just the users who they can boost the post. It's like I really like this thing and I want to boost it. I want to promote it. It's just the users boosting these posts. It's sort of like voting for it, having more emphasis. The platform is called Mastodon. Mastodon is just small. all the geeks and nerds go there. It's mostly geeks and nerds. But you know, all the good news stories are there. All the good news stories are there, and it has an awesome feature where if there's anybody there who's like speaking in this abusive tone of voice, you know, like they're very sensationalist or very like polarizing or very like, you know, like the tone of voice just comes across as psychologically abusive, okay? You can mute that user. Mute meaning like silence them and you won't see their posts anymore. And then if some nasty person wants to get in an argument, you know, they start, you know, specifically attacking you, you know, psychologically, then you can block them. And blocking is even stronger. So whatever that nasty person says, even your followers won't hear it, okay? The blocking stops even your followers from hearing what that nasty person's saying. You know, so let's say someone from another religion was on there and they really hate Buddhist monks or something and they want to say something nasty about Buddhism. I can just block that guy and none of my followers will even hear what they say. So to my mind, having like a mute feature or a block feature is super valuable because there's going to be, frankly, like psychologically abusive people on there. You know, psychologically kind of like they kind of try to get under your skin with their posting, and it's not okay. And there needs to be a way to mute them. There needs to be a way to. There is no arguing with them. Okay, there's no convincing them differently. There's no good faith, goodwill debate. You know, there's no polite, gentlemanly debate that's going to happen. They're just going to keep being nasty no matter what you say. So the only way is to just mute them, avoid them. Yeah. Even in the sutta here was talk about something like avoiding a risky road or something like this. Yeah, well, anyway, the Buddha does say, you know, you just like you. Okay, here we go. An astute person understands these four enemies for what they are and keeps them at a distance as they'd shun a risky road, shunning a risky road. So yeah, the Buddha doesn't insist that we go debating with people or try to fix them or try to help them, or no, it's like just avoid. Like there are people that are so bad, you should just avoid them. Yeah, so this mute feature, I love it. I use it like pretty much every day. There's as soon as the tone of voice is like harsh and nasty, you know, even if they might be promoting some political cause, which is kind of worth it, kind of praiseworthy, but they're being nasty, you know, and they're really trying to get under your skin. As soon as I detect that, it's like mute. Yeah, like I'm not going to tolerate this abuse because I need to take care of my own psychological well-being. Yeah. So does that help? It's called mastodon. 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 So it's like a prehistoric kind of elephant creature. You know, it's got tusks and a trunk, but it's kind of hairy. A mastodon. Yeah. Harmony?
Yeah, you give a lot of kindness, compassion to them. And the young people just they give you the opposite too. So how do you manage this stuff?
Okay.
Friend you can just avoid. But what about like family?
Okay, so you're asking about family harmony.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I wish there was a short answer here. I hope you all have good 10 or 15 minutes here and you drank a coffee after your meal, because it's kind of a long answer. So now, okay, I'm in a room where, virtually everybody, it seems, you're Chinese Malaysians, you likely have some, shall we say, background drawing upon like Confucian values. And yeah, now I'm no expert in Confucianism, but I've done some research, some reading up on it. And so yeah, loyalty is like number one in Confucianism. It's so important, like honoring your parents, honoring your father and mother. And, one's loyalty should be 100% total loyalty. Like that is basically harmony in a nutshell. When you think in a Confucian way, okay, it's just loyalty, 100%. Yeah, and it's very much like the children are to serve the parents. Now, in Western culture, where I was raised, and so I've got like no Confucian kind of influence, in my Western kind of upbringing. The thinking is kind of in the opposite direction. In a Western style family, it's the parents who kind of serve the children, okay? So the serving is kind of in the other direction. Okay, so in the Confucian way, and at the time the Buddha as well, it's the children who serve the parents. But in a Western way of thinking, it's the parents who serve the children. So it's opposite, okay? Yeah, and I've heard it described like the Westerners have a pay it forward mentality. Pay it forward means, serve those kids. They're the next generation. It's like serve to the next generation, pay it forward. But in the kind of Confucian way or the Indian way, Hindu way, is like pay it backwards. It's the kids who are being loyal, backwards in time to the parents, who are older, right? So as your kids in here get more westernized, I hate to say this, but they are going to probably like this Western system where they're like, why would I want to serve my parents when it could be my parents who serve me? You see, if they convert to a Western way of thinking, it's the parents who serve the kids. So they're like, I can be served by my parents. You see? So, yeah, so this is a tough one. It's a tough one. So now, it is clear in Buddhism. It's clear in the Buddhist teachings. When parents get old in their old age, yes, they should be taken care of. Okay, absolutely, 100%. That's a Hindu belief. That's also a Confucian belief. Even also Westerner belief. Although the Westerner thinking often goes, well, if we just put our parents in an old folks home, though, and we can afford it, then the old folks home will take care of them. So they'll still be taken care of. It's just that we're going to pay someone else to do it. So that's kind of not very compassionate, but it happens a lot. Yeah, like at the time of the Buddha, there was no such thing as like health care, okay? Here in Malaysia, you have very, very good health care. I'm very impressed, your hospitals and your clinics and all this. Excellent, okay? If you go to the hospital in Canada, you're probably going to wait longer in the emergency room. You're going to wait longer for an operation. You're going to wait longer for, all the healthcare. They have healthcare there too, but there's more of a waiting list for everything. You actually have the better system here in Malaysia because you're waiting less to get all the treatment. This factors into kind of Western thinking, like, well, we have such good healthcare though. Like, if our parents, fall down and break a hip, well, the ambulance comes and takes them to the hospital, and they, put in a new hip, and we have healthcare. You know what I mean? There's this belief that healthcare can step in and provide a lot of the care. Where at the time of the Buddha, well, there is no ambulance, there is no hospital, there is no, you know what I mean? It's like all that care has to be provided by the children, right? It's by the family. It was much more like a kind of family clan thing, big families living together. They have this term in Indian culture, the ancestral hall. The ancestral hall. It's in the suttas sometimes, and they still have them today. So, like the building where the entire clan can fit into that big building, that's called the ancestral hall. And it's just a very large empty building. Empty meaning like there's virtually no furniture in it, there's no chairs and couches, it's just a big room. And at least once a year, like the whole clan comes there and stuffs into this building. There might be 100 people in there. And they all get together, it's a big clan family reunion. Yeah, so this, there's this sense of like the whole clan, and they take care of each other. But in Western culture, it's not so much about the big clan, it's about just your own nuclear family, just your mother, father, and then the immediate children. That's a nuclear family. And the grandparents, they live in a different house, or the aunties and uncles live in a different house. So it was actually the Christians broke it up that way. There was a point in history in European history, where the Catholic Church broke up the families and said like one nuclear family per house, not a big clan anymore. They actually broke up those clans on purpose. They used to have big clans too, just like the Chinese, just like the Indians, just like everybody else was doing. They had big clans. But then the Christians broke them up into these nuclear families. Yeah, so that created a lot of trouble, by the way. That made all kinds of trouble. I don't want to really get into a history lesson. They had a reason for doing it. They were desperate to survive because some invaders were coming from different directions, and they needed to innovate. And by breaking everybody up into smaller groups, everyone had to work together more with their neighbors and stuff, and talk to other clans and get along. And this made innovation increase, and then they could improve their military technology this way. So they were kind of desperate to survive these invasions, but it really was harsh on the family structure to break it up like that. Yeah. Anyway, so Westerners have lost a lot of this concept of what is harmony, right? Western culture has kind of a weak sense of this harmony and loyalty now. It's more like, well, if there's healthcare, you'll be taken care of when you're old. As long as everybody doesn't starve, as long as everybody has somewhere to sleep, that's good enough support. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question. Okay. Maybe we'll conclude then.